What's going on, guys? Justin here with my starts and sits for Fantasy Football Week 8. About 95% of you guys that watch are not subscribed, so please quickly click that subscribe button. Let's start it off with some quarterbacks I'd be looking to get into my lineups. Michael Penix draws an extremely good matchup against the Dolphins, who are dead last in pass defense DVOA and EPA allowed. This game script could go in the wrong direction for a quarterback, but the Falcons should be able to put up points, which hopefully means some passing touchdowns for Penix. Joe Flacco is coming off the QB6 performance in Week 7 after passing for 342 yards and 3 touchdowns. According to DVOA, PFF coverage grade, and EPA allowed, the Steelers have a middle-of-the-pack defense, but Flacco gets the Jets this week, who have the second worst passing defense DVOA and the third worst EPA allowed. I can see Flacco putting up some good numbers again if this doesn't get too run heavy. Bo Nix is coming off a monster game and the QB1 performance in Week 7 and is finally producing at his ADP. He gets one of the worst defenses in the league in the Cowboys this week, and they are bottom 5 in pass defense DVOA and EPA allowed. And Caleb Williams had a great matchup last week against the Saints, but didn't do very much with it. He's got another great matchup against the Ravens this week, who are tied for third worst EPA allowed in the NFL. As for the quarterbacks I'm starting with Brock Purdy or Mac Jones, whoever is the QB1 for the 49ers this week. They are getting healthier, but they take on one of the best pass defenses in the NFL, in the Houston Texans. They have the second best passing DVOA and the best EPA allowed, and they held Sam Darnold to just 8 fantasy points last week. Tua gets the Dolphins this week, who have the best passing defense DVOA in the entire league. This game is on the road too, just not much going the Dolphins' way this week, or for any game this season. I'd also be sitting Marcus Mariota. You probably don't want to be starting a backup quarterback anyway, but in Superflex leagues you might need to. He gets the Chiefs defense, who has the second best PFF coverage grade in the NFL, and they are top 7 in terms of EPA allowed. Things seem to be turning around in Kansas City after their slow start. As for the running backs I'd be looking to start, J.K. Dobbins gets the Cowboys this week, who have the worst PFF run defensive grade in the entire NFL and are bottom 5 in EPA allowed. He hasn't seen the end zone since Week 5, but I bet that changes this week. The Bills surprisingly have the worst rushing DVOA in the entire league, and by a few points too. Imagine if the Panthers only had one of Chuba or Rico, but unfortunately for us fantasy managers, they have both. I'm still rolling out both, especially because of the number of buys this week. I told you to temper expectations on Breece Hall last week against a sneaky Panthers defense, and he only scored 7 fantasy points, finishing as the RB30 on the week. But this week, he gets a great matchup against the Bengals. They are a bottom 17 in rush defense DVOA, PFF run defense grade, and EPA allowed. Both Bears running backs are likely startable this week too, those being DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai. They take on the Ravens defense, who are bottom 5 in PFF run defense grade and EPA. Bijan is an obvious must-start each week, but I think Tyler Algier is a deep start too. The Falcons get the horrid Dolphins defense this week, who have the second worst EPA allowed on rushing plays. Algier has scored in every other week this season, so according to that trend, he should score this week. Heading over to the running backs that I'd be looking to sit, I'm starting with the Patriots running backs. I think Ramondre could salvage his day if he finds the end zone, which he has done quite a bit this season, but they get the toughest running back matchup in the entire NFL in the Browns. On the flip side of this game, the Patriots have a pretty good run defense too, a lot better than their pass defense. I don't think you're ever sitting Quinshon Judkins, but I want to temper my expectations with him. So somehow the Jets actually have a top 6 rushing defense. I think Chase Brown could catch some passes and maybe find the end zone, which is wild to say after these last few weeks, but this matchup does not favor him in terms of rushing, and I just wanted to point that out. Alvin Kamara might have just gained control of 90% of the backfield work after Kendre Miller just tore his ACL, but I'd be looking for a better option this week. He takes on the Buccaneers, who have a top 10 rushing defense. Catches could salvage Kamara's day in a PPR format, but I don't want to bank on him scoring a touchdown. Let's now talk about some wide receivers I'd be looking to start, and for the first time this season, T. Higgins is getting on my starts list. He's been on my sit list a number of times, but Joe Flacco has seemingly revived this offense. As mentioned previously, the Jets have one of the worst passing defenses in the NFL, so T. Higgins and the Bengals should be able to produce in Week 8. Just like Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze is coming off a bad performance in what should have been a good matchup last week. In fact, Rome has just put up 10 total points in the last 2 weeks, but he gets the Ravens this week, who are tied for third worst in passing EPA allowed. Michael Pittman has had 5 top 24 finishes and 3 top 14 finishes so far this season, so I don't know if I need to mention his name, but he is benefiting from a good Colts offense, and they get the Titans this week. The Titans have a bottom 10 passing defense per DVOA and EPA allowed. Just like I probably didn't need to mention Michael Pittman, I probably don't need to mention Courtland Sutton, but the matchup is so good against the Cowboys, I had to bring him up. He's an absolute must start this week. And if you are really desperate, Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims could be options in this matchup too. Xavier Worthy has seemed to have taken a back seat thanks to the Rashee Rice return, but he can still produce against a bottom 10 pass defense in the Washington Commanders this week. Of the wide receivers I'd be looking to sit, Jalen Waddle is the first name that comes to mind. Waddle has had a couple great games following the Tyreek Hill injury, but he only caught 1 pass last week in a bad matchup against the Browns. I'd like to note that the weather also wasn't great, and this week he is in a dome, but he's taking on the Atlanta Falcons, who have the best passing DVOA in the entire league. I'd rather not touch Tua or the pass catchers this week. DK Metcalf takes on the Green Bay Packers this week, and they've given up some fantasy points to pass catchers lately, but how they've done that doesn't really fit DK's playstyle. The Packers are getting beat on these short, quick throws over the middle, and DK has the ability to run those slants, but he's more commonly lined up on the outside. Kendrick Bourne gets the Houston Texans this week, who have the league's best EPA allowed and PFF pass rush grade, which could impact offensive performance. Juwan Jennings was seemingly a full go last week, which isn't great for Bourne either. Keyshawn Boutte and the Patriots take on the Cleveland Browns in Week 8, who are amongst the league's best in PFF coverage grade and PFF pass rush grade. I don't know if I would go as far as sitting Stephon Diggs, but Boutte is not someone I am rushing to get into my lineups. I'm also not overly eager to get the Washington Commanders wideouts in my lineups. Terry had 10 points with Mariota in Week 3, and Debo had 5 and 20 points in his game with Mariota. Though, the Chiefs' defense is coming around, and I think this game could get ugly. Now let's lastly look at the tight ends I'd want in my lineups this week. With all the injuries the Buccaneers are facing on offense, Cade Otton could result as the main beneficiary and put up some big numbers like he did last year. He's only owned in 50% of sleeper leagues, and I'd go as far as saying he should be a must-add. He's seen his targets increase in each game over the last 4, and the Buccaneers get the Saints in Week 8, who are a bottom 5 pass defense team. I've talked about the Broncos players quite a bit so far this video, but I am not stopping yet. Evan Ingram has seen 6 or more targets in 4 straight games, and he's still only owned in 53% of sleeper leagues. This game has a good chance for points, so fire up Evan Ingram. Now, Dalton Schultz doesn't get some outstanding matchup like the other guys mentioned, but he has seen 4 or more targets in each game this season, including 6 or more in 4 straight. Nico Collins is likely to miss Week 8, so Schultz could be the go-to pass catcher for CJ Stroud. There's not much great about the New York Jets passing game, but I'm still starting Mason Taylor in deeper leagues. He gets a good matchup against a bottom 3 Bengals pass defense team, and a potential switch to Tyrod Taylor may help out Mason and the rest of the pass catchers. The Patriots have a great run-stopping defense, but are among the bottom 6 in passing defense based on DVOA. We know Dylan Gabriel loves the tight ends, so if you are desperate, I think both Browns tight ends are startable this week. And to finish off this video, let's look at some tight ends I'd want to be sitting. Zach Ertz only had 5 total catches in the 2 starts with Mariota earlier this season. Plus, he gets a top 7 passing defense in the Chiefs this week, so I'd be looking for a better option. And Hunter Henry has had his production slow down after his hot start. As mentioned before, the Browns have a very good defense in general, so I'd be looking for a better option here too. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Please drop a like if you liked the video, and don't forget to subscribe.